Hey there, everybody. I'm Gio Benitez here in Miami. Thanks for joining us. I think we're broadcasting right now on abcnews.com, the ABC News Facebook page, the Good Morning America Facebook page. So why don't you log on to one of the Facebook pages and start asking questions because I'm going to load it up here in just a moment after we get through some of the details about what's going on here. And if you have any questions, any comments, anything you want to talk about regarding Hurricane Irma, let's talk about it. So here we are in Miami. We're in downtown Miami right now. I just want to take a look. This is how intense these winds are. And these are just the outer bands, okay? So these are just the outer bands. So this is what you typically feel as a hurricane starts moving through the area. In this case, the hurricane is way down to the south. It's a Category 3 right now. This is the 2 p.m. update. The winds are at 125 miles per hour. So what happened was, just so you understand, this Hurricane I sort of went over Cuba for a little bit, and that started to weaken it. You remember it was a Category 4, a very, very strong Category 4. At some point it was a Category 5, but it went down to a Category 3 because it started hitting that land. And that's typically what happens when a storm starts moving through the Cuba area. You start getting those mountains, those elevated areas, and then it just starts to weaken. So it's at 125 miles per hour right now. It's about 145 miles southeast of Key West. And so what we are waiting for right now, it is moving west. We're waiting to figure out when this thing is going to turn to the north. That's the forecast from the National Hurricane Center. And they are saying right now that they believe that it may make landfall tomorrow morning in Key West and then continue up the western coast of Florida, the Naples, Florida area, and the Fort Myers area. So we need to see when that turn happens. But I want you to take a look at this. And this is what's concerning when you're talking about an area as populated as Miami. You see these buildings here? During Hurricane Andrew back in 1992, a lot of these buildings just lost a ton of glass. That went flying all over the place. This whole area was just a big mess. And where the eye hit during Hurricane Andrew, which was sort of southwest Miami-Dade, that was really where the devastation was. So that's why we're watching this eye to figure out where it's going. It's sort of been going back and forth in terms of this forecast. The National Hurricane Center has been trying, but it's just too hard because when you're looking at a hurricane, it doesn't travel in a straight line. You just don't know exactly where it's going to go. I'm going to load up here the Facebook to see if you have any questions. Here we go. Oh, there we go. There's the Facebook page. Oh, a lot of you are watching. Wait, I'm watching myself. I'm hearing myself. So we got to. All right, let's see. A lot of prayers. So thank you for that. Lots of people. Let's see. Texas. Oh, Linda Rodriguez. Hope you fared well during Harvey. Let's see. Buckle down and stay safe. I promise you, our whole team is buckling down and staying safe. And I just want to show you. If we'll pan around here, just to show you what we're doing here. We are in this apartment building, but this is really strong concrete, okay? And you can see here you've got spaces where we're sort of protected from any flying debris. We're not going to be here during the most intense parts of the storm. We're not going to be standing out here. That's just dangerous. And that's actually why we decided to leave Key West, because we were in Key West yesterday, and yesterday morning during Good Morning America, we decided to go just hit the road and get out of there because it's only one road out of the Florida Keys. And we were concerned that if this thing started going toward the Keys and really created that storm surge, and the storm surge could be really significant of some 9 feet or even higher, it could potentially take down some bridges. And there's 42 bridges in the Florida Keys, so if it takes down one of them, getting to mainland Florida is just really tough. And so that's why we decided to leave. We're glad we did because that's when the forecast changed. Right after that, that's when we saw that the forecast was really changing toward Key West. Most of the local news reporters here, in fact, they also pulled out along with the national media, and they're not staying there. So we're taking safety very, very seriously, as you all should. And if you're in that path of the storm, we're talking about the Key West. If you haven't left Key West, there are at least 4 different shelters that have opened up now in Monroe County, down in Florida Keys. One of them in Key West is the Key West High School. So if you're down there, if you're watching this from Key West, just get down there. Get down to the Key West High School and just be safe because that building is safe for a hurricane. Let's look at some of these other questions here. My entire family is in Key West, Jessica Porter. Yeah, I have family in Key West too, and and pray for us, please. So I'm guessing, Jessica, that your family also is staying behind. Make sure you're telling them about that Key West High School shelter that's opened up. It's called a shelter of last resort. I remember talking on the air about officials saying that, you know what, if you don't leave the Keys, if you don't evacuate, you're on your own. Thankfully, they changed their minds on that. A lot of first responders stayed behind in the Florida Keys, too, and this could potentially save lives if this hurricane moves through at the intensity they think it's going to move through. Because even though right now it's a Category 3 at 125 miles per hour, they are expecting it to intensify back to a Category 4, and if the waters are warm enough, who knows if it could intensify even more than that. Let's look at some of these other questions. Watching from Washington State, Andrea, thank you. Debbie, a mama in Blacksburg, Virginia, worried about her son in Kissimmee. That is interesting because we're going to be looking at whether or not that storm continues on through Central Florida and through the Orlando area. I have a friend who texted me from Orlando who said, I don't know if I should evacuate. Right now, they just need to watch this. They need to watch this forecast. A lot of these evacuation shelters are getting really busy, especially in the Naples and Fort Myers area. But in the Orlando area, just watch this. But officials have told us that they want everyone to evacuate. They want everyone to go north. The problem is finding a hotel room, finding a place to stay. That's becoming more difficult. That's what we're hearing from people. Let's see here. We are watching. When will Miami be clear of the storm? That's Anthony. Miami won't be clear of the storm for quite a bit because we're going to be feeling those outer bands for a while. And it depends how much of that northeast quadrant of the storm we're getting. You've heard Ginger Z talk about it and Rob Marciano. They've been talking about that northeast quadrant of the storm. If wherever that northeast quadrant hits, that's the most intense part of a storm. That is one of the most dangerous outside of that eye wall. That is, of course, the most devastating. So they need to watch for that. Renee, Geo, be safe. Thank you so much. Glad you left Key West, but not sure this is much better. I guarantee you right now at this point, this is much better than potentially what could happen in the Florida Keys. Because remember, in the Florida Keys, you're looking at these tiny little islands that are completely surrounded by water. And you're talking about an eye that is probably bigger than those islands. So when I was talking about this with Ginger Z, we were talking about that eye. If it were to move through those islands, it would not weaken because those islands are just too small. So we need to look at that. Most of the Florida Keys, the average Florida Key right now is just 6 feet below, 6 feet above sea level. It better not be 6 feet below sea level. 6 feet above sea level. And so because the water is that close all around, that's when you have the potential for flooding. We saw some serious flooding during Hurricane Wilma in 2005. There were several feet of flooding, in fact, in many parts of the Florida Keys. Really did some damage. When that storm surge comes in, it could really do some damage. Let's look here. What else are you guys asking about? Thanks for your service. What about Cape Coral? That's a good question, Nancy. And I'm going to have to go ahead and ask our weather team about Cape Coral to figure out what's going on there. I don't want to speak out of turn there. Praying for the world. That's so a lot of prayers. A lot of people are praying here. Let's see here. We have family in Sarasota, minutes from the beach. We are super worried. Sarasota is going to be a concern, okay? Because if this storm does in fact make that north turn, as it's expected to make, Sarasota is very much in the bullseye there when you're talking about this storm moving up. Now, if it stays, if this eye happens to stay offshore and it sort of coasts along the western coast of Florida. Remember I was talking about that northeast quadrant? That's the side of the storm, that dangerous part of the storm that would be over Florida's west coast. So we need to watch that. And that's why it's one of these things where you're looking at the storm and you're saying, why can't anybody figure out where it's going? It's just too strong. And sometimes it has a mind of its own. At some point today, we saw a little downward turn into Cuba. that wasn't expected. Nobody forecasted that. That's because it just sort of happens when you're talking about these storms. It's not something that you can really look at and say, okay, this is exactly what it's going to do. It's just nature. It's a massive monster of a storm. So when you're looking at this, you got to watch, because any slight little shift from one side to the other with this eye makes a difference in what's going to be affected. So we're going to keep chatting with you here on Facebook. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a special edition of Good Morning America starting at 6 a.m. Eastern tomorrow, and then we're going to stay on the air all morning long as the storm makes landfall here in the United States. I think we're going to stay on till about 12 noon, so we're going to stay on for about 6 hours. abcnews.com, of course, will carry that live coverage, and we'll be here on Facebook and on abcnews.com bringing you these live updates as much as possible. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Gio Benitez in Miami. Special edition of Good Morning America tomorrow and World News Tonight with David Muir. Take it easy.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.